Well, it's awesome. It's awesome. So this was the car that we built first in the first simulator we made 23 years ago, GTR1. And the first car we modeled was that Lister. You know, it had such an iconic look, and it was such a beast, such a monster of a car. It was inspirational. And we were a very small team, and we were going up against the big boys. So when they said, who are you going for in this game? I said, yeah, we're aiming at Gran Turismo. We're aiming at Forza. Maybe not in the original game, but that's where we're going, down the line at some point. And it was this ethos of David versus Goliath. And that's what that car is. So it's not just got the look, it's got this ethos, this inspirational ethos that we really subscribe to. Well, this is pretty much as it was. They've done very, very little to it. So that car is effectively as it was 23 years ago. It's great. I love it. And it's great to see it again. It was a hero car for us. When we looked at the cars that were available on the roster, that was the only car you couldn't really go and buy and drive around the street. This was special and very successful. And it had an engine in the front. Okay, they call it front mid. To be fair, the poor guy in the cockpit squeezed back so far, there's hardly any room for his knees. They've stuck the engine so far mid. It's way, way, way behind the front axle, but it's a great car and I love it. It's great to see it again. Ben Collins, our handling consultant, he's been racing around the track, giving it hell. I'm getting too old for that stuff, so we'll collect the data and make use of that.
So I've just driven the Lister Storm in the real world, and for the next 6 months, it's going to be a case of recreating these real world experiences in-game with Straight 4. So we're driving a variety of cars. My role is a handling consultant for our new game. Very exciting, very different, very groundbreaking. And we've got a lot of cars to get through from all different genres of motorsport. So it's going to be pretty exciting. I met Ian Bell, who's the CEO of Straight 4, about 14 years ago, when he set out his vision to create the most realistic racing game of all time. And it all sounded pretty unrealistic because it sounded impossible. They were going to replicate every nut and bolt of every type of racing car across the board. Wet racing, we're going to have rain developing in one part of the track and not the other, you know, completely organic. It sounded impossible, but we pulled it off. That was Project Cars 1, Project Cars 2. So coming back into this for our third mission together is really, really exciting. So the Lister is always kind of seen as the ultimate badass. I think partly because of the way it looks, partly because it had 700 horsepower, and partly because everyone knew it had a monster V12 engine. It's a 7-litre engine, it's absolutely vast. Jeff Kingston was just telling me, I think it weighs 242 kilograms, which is a big old lump, bearing in mind that cars I used to race were LMP 900, the whole car weighed 900 kilograms, including the engine and everything else. So it's quite a big lump sitting up in front of the car, and a big brawny lump of power under your right foot. I was quite surprised actually to drive, it was very sedate. So braking force was really amazing. Power steering works pretty well, although there's a few niggles with that at the high speed when you start to juggle a little bit, possibly because it's an old car. But you can imagine what that would have been like back in period. With the wick turned up fully to 700 horsepower and with the setup fine-tuned, it would have been a real animal. As of today, it was pretty easy, quite placid, lots of understeer, so it was really hard to make a mistake, but it was really fun. I know that they're going to tear up the rule book. New engine behind this whole thing, the whole physics can be completely renewed. It's a big, bold statement, and I'm super thrilled to be part of that again, and we're going to really be punching for it. So I can't wait to see what we come up with.